I was the director of sales and marketing. And my job now being for go to clients them, for go tell them about networking, because we sold networking solutions. So local area networking, wide area networking, Cisco call manager solutions. So most of we clients them now being banks, telcos, because at the time this was like 2008, 2009, Boku bank them in the sky for can't open up na salon. That's when we, that enter in the UBA camp, Zenith camp, Bank PHB, I don't even think say there again. So like the Nigerian banks in the camp, there was a lot of activity in the banking sector. There was also activity in the telecommunication sector. And then the other players were like NGOs. So my job was to go out into these companies to like meet with leaders, right? Managing directors, business leaders. All of them were men. So imagine me, 23, going in my suit at a waka, they go feeling myself. I'm going to go here and I'm going to do my presentation to show them why they need to sign up to our Cisco Call Manager solution because, it's going to save them money. It's also going to improve their return on their investment. It's going to, just like really make them become more efficient. Because like Cisco says, you got to work smarter, not harder. So I would go. I was very serious. Very serious. I would go. And any side where I've been a go, then they give me meeting. There's no office where I'm not been a go. Where I go say, I can't request for can't see MD so-and-so or head of director of this, director of technology, IT director, that they wouldn't give me access. They would always give me access, right? Like then they allow me. And I can say this, when I say this is not an exaggeration. Every single company that I went to, except for one, every single company that I went to promote our services, the business leader there hit on me. Every single company. Every company. No single managing director or head of this one meets, not try for Kelly talk from business to girlfriend. Or where I feel say, where I go don't do me presentation, then go say, I want to, let me go now, Crown, with Bafo Street. If you people don't know. Oh no, Vickie, they'll say like, let me wrap this conversation, let me continue over lunch. And me fool, me American fool. Now, so they walk out 2 left foot, they go with a Crown. They go with any restaurant where they say, let we go continue this conversation. That's how they taught me. Because in my mind, when I maybe not work before, if person say, let's continue this conversation over lunch, the assumption is now for continue the business conversation over lunch, not to be odd thing. You understand what I'm saying? Not to odd thing for let somebody, a client or whatever, invite you out. Or for let you even invite a client out for lunch, for business. Then as we can sit down, then go say, then as we can sit down, so make you want to go straight to business. As I was saying in my presentation, hey, boy, make you watch me so. I do rush. Why are you rushing? Oh, relax, Vickie. Make me feel like, I'm not trying to chill. Like, relax. Of course, we do business. Relax, And so then I'd be like, okay, I'm so sorry. Like, I was just trying to, like, let me order Crown Jollof. Does this, Fadi was still in the kitchen. The Jollof at Crown was the best. The Jollof at Crown was premium Jollof. We used to, again, there's a group of people in Sierra Leone who know about the period that I'm talking about. Some of you will not know. You were not going to the streets then. Would not be don't reach maturity for what I did at inside there. Okay? So you would go there. After that, then go tell you say Friday nights, then they organize something at the house, like a hangout for other business people there for network. Again, I would be invited. Idiots, I will go. Why? Because I think that these people actually see me as a business equal. And I'm like, oh, if I go to this thing at this person's house, there'll be other like business people there. I can make connections, like we can link up. And then like, I don't mean link up, but like, I can get contacts. I can like build my network locally and build these relationships. So I go. I will be there. And then when I go, I'm like, oh, wait. It's really like chillings. It is a chilling. It is a chilling, not like a networking business. No, it is a chilling. No business. And now they talk with people that like we. Now invite someone, they invite we. Whether they only talk business with other men. The big business deals are with other men. Then just they put you like relax. And you keep thinking like, oh, well, okay, we'll talk about it eventually. And that's all it is, consistently. They just drag it on. Do you know how many times man don't send me inappropriate message na me phone? Inappropriate. Why say continue inappropriate? One guy they went as some kind of legal luminary. I'm not gonna call his name. But it's like anytime when they talk about like human rights and peace and like people then a salon where like na advocates, na it all writes book, you don't this da. One time I send a Monday something where I write na me blog. As in like something to discuss, something intellectual. His response was, you work in the see picture, I can just feel for masturbates. This is somebody who no sign out in a salon where they don't respect them. They're the leaders. Like that thing I've been there for cry. I was so distraught because like I'm like, waiting me do where make you feel like for say you for can't talk to me like that. Like what have I done to you? How I show you? Like what how did we get here? And every time men will cross the line with me, I did not mean a person come out oversee. Okay, I really understand the context. Every time men solicited me for sex or for any other like sex, because really sex girlfriend, then go tell you plain one say if you want this thing, we get for date together, you get for sleep with me, you get for can me host, can do this, da. There was never a time when I felt like I was empowered to really say to them what I really wanted to say, and that was, you disgust me. Why did I not feel empowered with me American education, me middle class status, me wealth travel, wealth exposure? Because me too, I'm a Sierra Leonean woman. I've been raised to respect the authority of men. And also, at that time, I'm working in Sierra Leone. I am in the business community. I know one for I can't like tell this man say you disgust me. Then next thing will not get contracts. Next thing I don't put on for me company. Next thing don't go tell other people then say, because I knew that if I be ever speak up against any of them, the story where they get for tell, not so the story we get for be say, they sexually harass me. No, they get for say, it's right for joke with me or something. Now me make a big deal, now me they cuss him. That is the story that would have gone out. And that's the story that people would believe. And so what do as a woman in Sierra Leone, especially if you're a young woman? You try for balance. You know, you're like, you try to like deflect, balance, make joke, make light, or sometimes you go just quiet. If they send you some kind of message way too extreme, you just quiet. You're not talking nothing. Me, they talk about the days of BlackBerry. You know they respond, you know they talk nothing. So like silence. And you hope that silence they go give them the message. Then they go quiet for a while. Then they go come back, then go ask you, like me, some me no say me granny sick. So after a while, they'll come back and say, oh, are you granny? How they do? And then I go respond, oh, me granny fine, this. Then as you give them small normalcy, you treat them like human being, they enter back. So, how do they make sobo? So still they make, you're like, and this is constant. The good thing is that no, I didn't work for these people. They were people I wanted to do business with, but I didn't work for them, right? Meaning not to me supervisor inside organization where we get hierarchy. I was just somebody in the business scene looking for business. Whether it was when I was working for Access Point or when I was running my own media company, Alpha Do Productions, and we were looking for advertising for the Vickie Remoe show. No sign, I'm not even, when I say this is not an exaggeration, for 4 years in Sierra Leone, no sign no day where I go look for business, where man not try for use and for can get relationship with me. No sign. Pass one. His name was Dan Kaboyo, and he was the marketing manager at Celtel after then come back to Airtel, I believe. And he was from Uganda. Dan na the only man where I meet na salon where I go to for business. We no yarn me, no bring that kind talk there. We actually look what they try for do, and you say, oh, you know, Vickie, this looks like a really great idea. We actually try for help me, try for give me sponsorship without requesting any kind of sexual favor. He even like, I mean, they go now, oh, so make I go using internet. Like, he was so helpful. You know, one day, the Sierra Leoneans, however, they're all, the Sierra Leonean men, they're all, none no day. None no day. None, not a single one. And I'm telling you that me and I've been JC, I come from an upper middle class family, right? And I still did not feel empowered to speak up for myself because I was afraid of the social consequences and what people would say. And I know that my experience is even mild. Me experience mild compared to waiting a woman who is not as well educated, a woman who does not come from such a well-off family. I have privilege. Sometimes I'm a privileged self. Now it make the only thing I've been get for deal with are just the talk and the message there. I can't imagine what the experience would be like for a Sierra Leonean woman of a lower socioeconomic status who needs a contract to survive. I didn't need my job to survive. I not been get rent for paying a salon. You understand what I mean? I been get motocar, all thing, like I was good. I was doing the job as a job, yeah, but it was not my life. I go tell you now one story before I move on to the final thing. One MD na one bank invites me for business dinner and I host. I go there, I meet other people then, so I assume say na business dinner with we all. This na MD we been tap. You know say across from where you done Aberdeen Bridge, like where you go towards Aberdeen, where usai see coach there na you right. One apartment complex been there na you left inside and they boku MDs and like executives been tapping na inside they invite me we go. So went in there thinking business dinner. And I meet people then so I'm like, oh okay great, this is like a great business opportunity. He say in director like the board chairman of the company they talk. So while he meets like movers and shakers then at the country. So I went because I'm like, oh, this is great because maybe that means that they'll sponsor my show. I go, wait 30 minutes. Now the other people the way they left. Then one other woman left. Where I watch it fine now, see say this picky so na rare girl. I be no say na rare girl, bang, cause I mean they see na parties, I no say na rare girl. And I was like, oh wow. Then bring the rare girl, then bring me. So one, the rare girl na for the MD, then me na for the director, the chairman. I was like, what? How did I find myself in this situation? Imagine the MD invites me basically for give me like gifts. He invites me like for say for in chairman invites me like for say he don't promise in chairman say no worry I get one babe for you. But what he told me was that I was going there for a business networking dinner. Bio na for like give me like for say like chair look what I saved for you. How did I scream and get up and say, oh my God, the insults? No, I was just there. And then we all went to dinner. We went to Alexis. And then the man just began to tell me now all the things the way he will do for me, this, that, blah, 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 blah. Then at the end of the night, he said, if I want to go back to their place. I said, no, please. No, not just for drinks. I said, I know the drinks, Seth. So it's late. Me granny then I owes me granny get cancer. And then I get meetings. I give all the excuse. By the grace of God, I arrived at home safely in one piece. Me! Vickie Remoe in Pekin. Na me them bring with Rage girl for gifts. Me, I was the gift. Did I stop speaking to that man who treated me like that, the MD? No, I don't stop to speak to him. I'm not even vexed for now. I don't ever express to him the disgust. I just say, well, you know, this is what it is to do business in Sierra Leone. Before I speak about my personal experience with Walton Gilpin, which I feel like is what everybody wants to hear, and when I say it, I know that there are people who are going to say, now that's normal. And then I want you to understand what you're saying. So, I got a call 2 weeks ago, well, less than 2 weeks ago, from a lawyer in Sierra Leone. And he said that if I had heard this story, this was the same week where that Pekin Sina died. The girl who was the young woman, who was working at Skybank, who was killed or murdered or died in Sierra Leone. That story broke on Monday, and I was really distraught by it. And then 2 days later, I got a call from a lawyer in Sierra Leone if I had heard about this story at Skybank at Rokel Bank with the MD and the legal secretary at Rokel Bank. And I said, yes, because I had heard. Back in May, I was in Sierra Leone, and there was an article in the newspaper that said that people were trying to blackmail, like somebody at Rokel Commercial Bank, been tried for blackmail the MD, and they painted her like a criminal, basically. But I watch him, and because I had my own personal experience with this person, when we read the article, I was like, oh, he definitely did it, because I had my personal experience. So the lawyer briefed me on what had happened, and then I had a live Twitter a live Twitter space talking about sexual harassment in Sierra Leone, and the woman ended up calling in, and later she sent me her number, and since then she has sent me all of her information, evidence, and everything. And then I started doing some searches about how the media has covered her story. So, and I'll read all the story the way they write. And in every single story where they write, none of the journalists in a salon no believe this woman. And you can tell by the tone and language we then take for writes the story there. Everybody been a big up the MD na Rokel. Like the articles that were written were all written from the perspective of people who believe that men in power have the right to behave and do whatever they like. Nobody questioned this idea that if person in a position of leadership, we for hold them to a higher level. Or even say for the people then afraid. For the people then afraid for, oh no, maybe not afraid, but disassociate yourself first. Like, you know, create small distance because you don't know. There was nothing I read that suggested that people believed this woman who was coming forward. So I read her story. Then I go back and read all the story where it tell one thing clicked to me, and it was that, yeah, nobody's gonna believe this woman in Sierra Leone, of course not, because I know the existing power dynamic. I know the power dynamic. I know that in my mind, I understand how Sierra Leone work and how Sierra Leoneans think. Any Tewe woman talks something now we country, we not programmed for believe woman there. What we're programmed for and socialized for is to not believe women, to not trust women, to not respect women. So if it's a situation where the managing director of a bank, meaning this managing director has financial power, he is leading an institution owned, first of all, primarily by the government, because Rokel and government, I think, is the largest shareholder. Right? Would I not go one side with this kind of person in a salon, knowing the power dynamic? So I decided that, and before I decided, I knew, I be not say, if I came forward, people then go cost me, people then not go believe me. I also knew that the MD probably has enough money to pay people in a salon for later attack me, just like that woman had been attacked. I don't have evidence to say that he paid people to attack her. But I knew exactly what would happen if I came forward and I said, this man has sexually harassed me. I knew. But it was more important for me to, as far as I'm concerned, whatever she's experienced is so much worse than anything that I experienced and any kind of negative thing that people could say to me. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, I'm used to, right? She's married, she has 2 kids. And the thing that I was very disappointed about is the way the institution, the thing about patriarchy is that it's not just the misogyny against women, where, you know, we don't believe women, we don't trust women, we don't respect women, right? It's also that this patriarchal value, they now we institutions, they all. So I wasn't surprised that even after the Bank of Sierra Leone reviewed evidence and gave a position, that the chairman of the board, someone who, like, where I say I respect him, you know, would rather side with the person who's been accused than protect the victim. Instead, what did the bank do? The bank fired 3 people. They fired the woman who accused the MD and 2 of the people who worked under her. Why? Because the MD had reached out to those 2 people and asked if they could side with him and support him in this case. Those 2 young men, God bless them and their families, chose it instead to support Margaret. And for choosing to stand with the victim, the bank fired the 2 of them. So the victim lost their job, and 2 people willing to corroborate her story also got fired. So I said, you know what? The thing is, with me and my work in my life, nothing that happens on social media, and I mean this truly, nothing, and no cost, no day way person go cost me online that affects the respect people have for me, that affects the people who love me, that affects my family or my money. Like nothing. There's absolutely nothing that goes on this blue app that has any real negative impact on me and my life. So it's easy for me to come forward, relatively easy to say that in 2019, I went to Kingsview Guest House or Hotel, which is at Sussex. I used to go there all the time by myself because people then bokuno bin they go there. And during the weekends, I like to spend time alone, like just go to the beach and hang out by myself with a book, maybe my computer, eat some seafood, watch the ocean. I love it. Anybody who knows me knows when I'm in Freetown, that's like weekend agenda. So I went there and I see Bokumo and then I thought, okay, maybe they had a busy weekend. Then they open and say, oh, then they get private party. And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to intrude. Like, I really apologized. And the owner was like, oh, no, Vickie, please come, please join us. So I was invited in. Otherwise, I would have gone home. So I was invited in, and then I went inside, and we went to the veranda, right? I'm trying to speak in Creole and English at the same time so people understand me, so don't worry. So I went to the veranda, and there was like a table set on the veranda. And, you know, there were all these people there who had been invited to the party. It's a private party. And, you know, I was made to sit, like, Walton Gilpin was here, and I was sat here, like my table. They made a place for me here, so I sat next to him. Before then, I had never met him. I didn't know who he was. I had, never ever met him. Natsi na no sabi. He was just another random person to me. I didn't know most of the people there, actually, except the owners. And so I sat next to him, and then when we were introduced, he said that he remember my name because I've been done criticize the ABLE say me post na Facebook say and all like the TV commercial for the app where be they run SLBC. And I was like, oh, are you with Rokel? And he said yes. I'm like, yeah, that was me. Not too. I'll not be like it wasn't good. And so we started talking about marketing and communications, and I told him what I did. And he was listening and da-da-da. So at that time in my mind, I'm like, oh, great. You know, this is a great, and I'll be mean for Castle for Can't Talk About Business, but I'm glad that I'm here, you know, and I'm getting to talk about my business, which is fine. Then as we did talk, Tony watch me. Your face, very beautiful. Who are you fiba? Are you mama fiba? Or you papa? And it's like, You know, when you talk about one thing, then person bring other thing where, you know, no. Like, you brain the freeze, because you're like, wait, what? And he's like, no, I just want to know that you feel bad. You know, your mouth, so beautiful. Like, your mama or your papa, you feel bad. And I was like, I don't really want to talk about that. But in that moment, I then immediately felt uncomfortable. I've been in that situation so many times that, like, I know when a man is hitting on me. I know when a man is crossing the line. I know. And that's usually how it starts. I don't remember much of the conversation, but then I tried to like kind of just like bring the talk back to business and then focus for it. But he wasn't particularly interested in business. I could tell. And then he said something like, oh, you know, I can come meet in our office. For lay, we talk about business. And I didn't take his number. I just was like, oh, okay, yeah, that's a good idea. But I didn't take his number because already from that statement he made about my face and the way like he was behaving, I was uncomfortable. And I knew that like he didn't really want to do business with me. I get the experience, not being interested in doing business with me. So, you know, I still sat there. Then at some point, you know, he takes his hand. You know, we're sitting at a table. The table is like this. I'm sitting over here. He takes his hand and he puts it on my thigh and squeezes my thigh. And then he gets up and like he walks away. And I just kind of sit there. And I felt very small. Because again, I'm like, what did I do? What did I do? You know, like all I did was sit here and I came to eat. And the problem was, what made that situation like really terrible for me is I was really disgusted, but this is someone's 50th birthday party. I'm not an invited guest. I had just kind of happened there. I didn't have any friends there. So I just sit on there like fool. And when there was like a little break, I got up and I separated myself from the table. Now, if you've never been sexually harassed, maybe you cannot understand what it's like for someone to touch you that has no rights to touch you. For someone to touch you that you don't even know, like you're not even Sabia, to touch you in a suggestive way. And that's what it means to be like a woman in a lot of spaces all the time. You're just never safe from that kind of behavior. And maybe you're thinking, oh, well, you just do a once and not to nothing. But for most women in Sierra Leone, myself included, this happens all the time. This is constant, all the time, all the time. All the time. It's just all the time. Like, you can't even, and it's not supposed to be like, I mean, 3 things about me and men. They must be good looking, you know? They must be really brilliant, and I mean exceptionally brilliant, and they must be fine. This is an old man, you guys. So it is incredibly lecherous. Like, Anokia Yai, you know, me a Muslim. You know this thing, but like, lower your gaze. Wait, I don't want man attention. Know that my eyes like this. Because Asabi Salo, I don't want to smile to you. I'm doing like my resting bitch face. But when things like that happen to you all the time, it's like the microaggressions of like living in a racist society where all the time small racism, all the time small sexual harassment, small sexual harassment. It's so bad. Make I tell you something. I have a company in Sierra Leone. The sexual harassment is so bad for me that I'm not a go na person in office for meeting by myself. After those kinds of experiences, I not a go meeting na man office by myself. I not a go because I'm afraid. I don't want to let the talk begin self. I don't want to let the talk begin self. So either they have to come and meet me in my office to have a meeting, or if I go to other person in office, I go with me staff. And I go with staff when a man. Because when man can see other man at their situation and they are less likely to engage or behave in that way. I'm saying this because I feel like a lot of men aren't even aware that they have sexually harassed women. And a lot of women aren't even always aware that they're being sexually harassed. If you sit on some side, man can't rub your shoulder where you don't ask for rub your shoulder, it is sexual harassment. If he send you some kind of lewd message on your phone, sex message, sex joke, because they like to do that thing when they do sex joke, send on a phone, like use them for cover up, it's sexual harassment. And yes, if you go to dinner and you sit next to a man and he grabs your thigh and touches it, like Walton Gilpin touched mine, it's sexual harassment. Someone is saying, if you show you leg, Muslim not they behave so. That's an excellent point. But you know how the law works? Even if I am completely naked, and I want to say this because, again, there are women here who think that sometimes because he wears short skirts, sometimes because he's showing cleavage, sometimes because in back being dena do, sometimes in waist, in close tighting body. What's in the woman wear? No get nothing for do with sexual harassment. Sexual harassment has everything to do with somebody else taking advantage of you, touching you, harassing you without your consent. Anybody will touch you, waiting and call without you consent, it's harassment. And we all know it's in a sexual touching. We all know. Some people in there, even self shake and man then can use handshake for make rudeness for woman. You shake hand and will make so. Man, we one day sabi. What the is that? What the F is that? Okay? If na man way a leg, yes, okay, fine, babe. Like, we good. A man that I like, a man that I want, a man that I give permission to, fine. But even if I give permission today, tomorrow I not give permission. Even if I give permission today, tomorrow I not give permission. The permission not they carry over from today to tomorrow. The permission expires. So a lot of women, myself included, have been in situations repeatedly Usaiman and they cross the line with we and we know they talk. The thing about where I say this power dynamic, because people in there are like, oh, he walk there, the girl, he walk there, you call him, see, this happy, not talk, this, blah, 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 blah. Yes, it is very possible. You know how much some people and they abuse them for years. 10 years, safe, 20 years, and they abuse them and they know they talk nothing. Because of the power dynamics in those relationships. And una see what's happened. When she did come forward, what happened? She got fired. At any moment, even if not been the first day this girl been come forward, she would have still been fired. At the only thing where they accept and for you not talk nothing, you be her. If you come forward, the consequences are against you. Me, as far as I'm concerned, you don't have to believe me. I don't, like I said, I am really, really lucky, maybe even blessed and privileged to be above, the courts of public opinion. No kind of slander or anything people say about me online truly affects my life. So I can be here, I can say and express myself. I know for other people that there are real consequences. But for me to get to this place where I have the power or feel empowered enough to speak up, it took years. It took years. Years for me, even like after that thing that happened to me in this guest house, I actually wrote about it the next day. Because it was so bad, I was just like, I wrote about it and for the people who follow my blog, I wrote about it and it was like my life as a sex object. And I talked about all the single times I had like different experiences of sexual objectification where I don't experience. I not call name, but I wrote about this story and several others. Because that's the constant thing. So you don't have to believe me. But my invitation to you is to understand that there are power dynamics that exist between men and women in Sierra Leone that make it 1,000 times harder for women who are victims of sexual abuse, victims of sexual harassment, even spousal abuse, when they beat you, when you man they beat you, for come forward. Because we know say we live in a society who say if you come forward and talk, now you then go blame. Support's not there. So that's why a lot of people don't speak up. And for my thing is this, right? People then they say, oh, but this sexual harassment they happen all the time. What's make this girl they make so? This is the thing. The MD of this bank is in a position of power. He was appointed to this job, not so in private company, now government property. And as far as me concerned, as Sierra Leoneans, the people, whether you elect somebody or they appoint somebody, we have to hold people in leadership position. We get to hold them to a different and higher standard. You not go there, you na MD of bank, we they hold you to the standard of Omolanke driver. No disrespect to any Omolanke drivers. If you are a business leader, a government leader, we have to hold you to a higher standard. Why? Because leadership means you have power. Leadership means you have influence. Leadership means you have power, you have influence. If we not hold people there within a position of leadership to a higher standard, if we lower the bar for them, allow them to misbehave any kind way, that means that the influence within the influence, the places that within they walk, na negative influence. If the MD already depend this kind behavior, That's the kind of condition where it promotes na the bank. If the person when are the leader, in your behavior not good, now that's you they show the one that when are the followers then for saying that this is not the ideal. And constantly in a salon, we don't lower the bar for people that we don't allow them for let them feel like for say no standard, no day. They can behave anyhow, they can do anything. You don't have to believe Margaret. You don't have to believe me. But I hope that in your quiet moments, just moments of silent reflection, you ask yourself, if what we're saying is so strange in Sierra Leone, is this so strange? Does this not happen? How does this woman benefit by coming forward? In a society like Sierra Leone, if you come forward and you say you were sexually harassed, how do you benefit? How do you benefit? People have said, oh, this is a witch hunt. This not some, somebody else want the MD in job. So now that make this woman. Really? This also young girl. Not so one young girl, 19-year-old, 21-year-old. This woman is a lawyer. This woman is a lawyer. She got this job before this man got there. She's married. Her husband is a doctor. She has 2 kids. She's already the legal secretary in the bank. How is she benefiting by coming forward and saying that this man sexually harassed her? I'm not saying sexual harassment is exclusive to Sierra Leone. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that how many of you, if a woman came forward today and said that they were sexually harassed, how many of you would believe the victim if the man in question was a powerful man? How many of you would believe the victim? And then I want to ask you to ask yourself, why don't you believe the victim? And if you're truly honest, the reason why you don't believe her is because she's a woman. And what you've been raised to believe is not to trust women, not to believe women. Because we ate the apple, after God said for us to not eat the apple, we women, we ate the apple. We're the evil Eves that sent us to damnation. So we don't believe women. And that inherent prejudice against women is the underlying problem of gender inequality in Sierra Leone. That we treat women less. We don't believe women, we don't trust women. I have nothing to gain from coming forward. All I wanted to do really was to stand with another woman, because I feel like what she has done So courageous. So I shared my story and I named Walton Gilpin because I wanted to stand up for this woman and I wanted her to know that someone else believes her and that I believe her. And if by coming forward I can give any veracity to her story to make it more believable, I have zero regrets. I looked at the board composition at Rokel Commercial Bank. There are 9 people on the board of Rokel Commercial Bank. 7 of them are men. 7 of them are around the same age as Walton Gilpin. 1 of them, the chairman, is Walton Gilpin's friend. And I know this is because it was at the chairman's house that this incident of sexual harassment happened to me. At the time, I didn't know that he was the chairman. I only found out he was the chairman last week. This is someone who has won the Order of the Rokel. And he chose to fire the victim when she came forward with her story. This is someone appointed to the board by the president. All the people on the board are appointed by the president. All of these people are collecting sitting fees for board membership that are paid and contributed to by women like me and men like you. And I'm sorry, but me half money what they get NRA, I want to make sure the people the way they go to, if nothing else, are people who are gonna like protect a victim, you know, due process, and not punish them for coming forward. We, like at minimum, we for be safe now we workplace, especially workplace when it's a personal workplace, not government's money. What kind of message does it send to other young women who are working in corporate Sierra Leone, who are currently being sexually harassed in their workplace? When they hear what's happened to Margaret, do you think that they're going to come forward? And if they come forward, do you think anyone's going to believe them? The bank board and chair said that the evidence, the investigative committee they set up to look into the harassment was inconclusive, meaning they could not come to a conclusion whether or not sexual harassment had occurred. Walton Gilpin tried to get the woman fired after that happened. He was the one who went to the Bank of Sierra Leone to go report, because he not individually get the power for fire the woman when a legal secretary. Now when he go report to the bank, say this woman, you want fire this woman, now he then call Margaret for let he can tell what's in the happen. That's when she revealed that she was being sexually harassed, and she had raised the issue within the bank, within Rokel. So if Walton not be even come forward for good guy for firearm, this story probably would have never come out from beyond the bank. And I don't read the letter where the bank writes to the board chairman, where he instructs them for let them take decision against Walton, because the Bank of Sierra Leone reviewed the evidence where Rokel say inconclusive, etc., etc. And the Bank of Sierra Leone, their own external legal team, found that there was issue of intimidation and sexual harassment. the case don't go to court. So if you believe in Sierra Leone's criminal justice system, then you probably believe that, like, you know, it go courts, you'll be free and fair, there'll be like some kind of trial, like what do they do now, theme, presentation of evidence, and then go fend. There'll be no external influence, that this man who's very powerful, powerful enough to get this job in the first place, powerful enough to carry out a campaign of disinformation against the victim, powerful enough to get the woman and the 2 other members of staff fired, is gonna, like, you know, not have a way to influence, you know, if you really believe in Hollywood, then I'm sure you believe that where the case don't go to courts now, there'll be a free and fair trial, and they'll come out. If there's evidence, he'll be found guilty, and if there's no evidence, he'll be found not guilty. But this woman's already lost her job. She probably won't get her job again. I'd be surprised if she's able to get any job in Sierra Leone in banking again. I would be very surprised if the other 2 people who were fired would also be able to get a job in banking again or in another company, because then Udake Foge commend you. So that's all for me, folks. I'm sure you guys will have a lot to discuss on socials tomorrow. Thank you for watching. As always, it's a treat for me to share my thoughts and perspective with you guys. I know that I am very, very different from a lot of you. I know that we don't have the same worldview. I know that, yeah, I have a lot of privilege and access. I know that in many ways we're not alike. We're more different than we are alike. But one thing to remember is that, like you, I'm someone's daughter. Like you, I'm someone's sister. Like you, I am someone's friend. Like you, I am someone's mama, someone's lover. Yeah, I'm human just like you, and you don't have to like me, you don't have to agree with me, but I always appreciate that you tune in for my truth, whether you like it or agree with it or not. So thank you for your time and your attention, because otherwise this wouldn't happen. If you're a woman out there, I know most of you, especially if you're in the workforce, you know, nobody not gonna tell you, you understand. You've experienced it yourself, your friends have experienced it. Some of you've experienced this at work, at church, at school, at home, in your community, everywhere. So you know. But thank you so much for listening, and to the men who feel like they talk about una. Do better. Do better. Like if you're like, yeah, I'm not this kind of guy that you're talking about, then do more to like educate other men, speak up for women, stand up for women, and project the kind of values that you feel like you have, because we need men like you. We do. Because there are 2 men who stood by Margaret, and I think that that's really amazing, because they sacrificed their own jobs for her. And so, like, yeah, it's not something we can do. Women can't protect themselves. You know what I mean? Like, we have to protect, it's men have to protect women, women have to protect women. And I think that, like, yeah, there are those guys out there, but we need more of you to stand up, more of you to believe us, and more